Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings, this time, 8 o'clock Central. Spend 30 minutes or so together talking about strategies, tips, techniques. We're here to support each of you. We announced, or well, I should say, we started yesterday a new discussion on the 125-step checklist for launching a business. So let me just give a quick recap of what this is, and then we're going to start working through today and future sessions going through literally these 125 steps. So why is this relevant? Well, every once in a while you'll have a client that just really wants the roadmap from beginning to end, and this is a roadmap, not the only roadmap, but it's a well thought out, and we've got a lot of detailed discussion about each of these steps. It's not just a checklist. Secondly, it's really relevant for those of you that are white label partners. If you're a white label partner, then you're the one that's actually mentoring the clients, taking them through the process. As a white label partner, you can do a lot with the clients or you can do little. But if you're looking to do a lot, if you're a white label partner, we've got Joseph on the line here. He's one of our top white label partners out of Arkansas. So take someone like Joseph, very detail oriented, very customer focused. He works closely and immensely with his clients. This is the type of detail that white label partners like Joseph wants, because he's wanting to provide them coaching, supporting. And it's not just, Joseph's approach is not just to get them capital, but then to maintain a client, a coaching relationship with them afterwards. And so that's what I see some of you doing. Sure, we want to get the clients the funding that they need, that they want, that they deserve, that gets them cash, that gets you the performance fees as the white label partner. But additionally, it shouldn't stop there. Then those of you like Joseph are picking the clients up on a coaching relationship. We call it business coaching afterwards, where the clients are paying you $500 to $1,000, up to $2,000 a month to be their ongoing coach. And just think about that residual income where you have a portfolio of 10 or 20 or 30 or more clients that's paying you every month for the coaching, not just to get the capital, but even afterwards. So this is a really deep discussion into how to properly launch a business. This is not a mandatory checklist that you have to follow, that the clients have to follow, but we're going to take a deep dive starting today. So what we did yesterday is we just simply reviewed the 125 items, but we didn't dig into any of them. Today, we're going to start digging into them, and we're going to focus primarily on the first three. The how to get the client engaged initially, working on the business model, and then on the strategic aspects. So we're going to just start scratching the surface, but we're going to work through each of these topics each day going forward. Your responsibility during this is to interact. So we have the question and answer box in Zoom. It's kind of like a chat box. And so if you have something that you want to contribute, type it there. If you have questions, comments, type them as we go through, because this is meant to be interactive. So step number one, and what we'll scroll on down. So what we'd like clients to do is start with engaging with us. Now, if they're coming directly to us, let's say you're not a white label partner. If you're not a white label partner, you're a referral partner, which is fine, didn't cost anything to be one, then you're going to drive them into fundingproposal.online. That's how they get plugged in to get the support and resources. If you're a white label partner, which I would argue this training is most specific for, then of course, as a white label partner, you're not going to send them to fundingproposal.online. You're going to get your agreement signed with them. So if you're not a white label partner, you can go over to 4weekfunding.com, learn a little bit more about it, apply here and get set up real quickly. So I'm not here trying to recruit white label partners, but I'm just saying if you're a white label partner, then you won't drive them to this site. Instead, you'll get them under your terms and conditions, under your agreement. If you're not a white label partner, then you would be considered a referral partner, still paid off of it, and you'd be sending them here. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's assume the client's now in the mix. So they're not a prospect, they're a client. And either they're a white label client if you're a white label partner, or if you're a referral partner, you've referred them here. So now let's dig in to what we need to be doing to help the business properly launch. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen so we can see it. So what we are on is formulate the business model. According to Investopedia.com, a business model is the following: the plan implemented by a company to generate revenue and make profit from operations. I'm going to pause there. I used to be a college professor. You've heard that, and that's probably a boring topic. But in my business 101 class that I had, so these were typically freshmen in college, and obviously many of them not as sophisticated as you. Many of them haven't had any entrepreneurial experience. But I can tell you what was on the first test of that class, that semester-long class, is what's the number one goal of a business? So here's a chance for each of you to respond. If you'll go over to the question and answer, what is the number one goal of a business? So we've got over 100 of you, but Alfred, April, Ben, Bernard, Charles, David, John, Joseph, Lon, Pauline, Wayne, Winston, others. Go ahead and give me the answer to that question. What is the number one goal of a business? What is the number one goal of a business? I'm going to give you each a moment to respond, and then we'll continue with this discussion. Okay, we got some great responses coming in, and I realize this could be subject to opinion, but it feeds what we're talking about, and it's certainly what the answer was for the college class. Oh, April got it. Lon got it. Okay, so the number one goal of a business is to generate a profit. We must generate a profit. Now, we may start and not be profitable, and there's many companies that you can find that are not profitable initially. Uber and Lyft still struggle to be profitable, right? There's a number of new EV, electric automobile makers, that are bleeding money, but still publicly traded and vibrant. But ultimately, we have to get to profitability. And it's interesting that Investopedia mentions this. Oh, didn't like the way I'm highlighting there. So we won't do it that way. But the bottom line is we need to make a profit. We need to make a profit. Because if we don't make a profit, you'll have clients that come to you and they want to borrow money. Well, that's fine. It's called leverage. Borrowing money to start or grow a business, smart thing to do. Some of the most successful people do it. It's rare that a business can reach its potential without leverage. So that's fine. But we've got to get to profitability. What you'll have is some people that come to you and they don't have a plan for profit. They just figure they'll borrow. Well, you can only borrow so much. All right, so back to the definition of a business model. The plan implemented by a company to generate revenue and make a profit. That was the answer to the question, number one goal of a business, from operations. The model includes the components and functions of the business, as well as the revenue it generates and expenses it incurs. So what we're going to do here is use an example, and we're going to use a restaurant as an example. And it's interesting, one of our top white label partners, Mr. Barchi's on the line, and that's his background. So he'll probably have a lot of input. When I went to work for the SBA, my boss, his expertise, not my expertise, I'll tell you, but his expertise was restaurant funding. And so I worked with him and we did a bunch of restaurant funding deals, learned a lot from him. So we're going to use just a restaurant as an example of how we need to think about developing a business model. Because it can't be just, oh, I want to go into real estate, or I want to start a trucking firm. That is not the business model. That is just the industry. So let's use the restaurant as the example. Going back to some of your answers, because they've continued to come in. So there's a lot of other things that are important about operating a business. And Winston's talking about getting and keeping customers. I don't disagree, but if those aren't profitable customers, it doesn't matter because we won't be around very long. Mr. Barchi mentioned fixing clients' problems. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But if we fix their problems and we don't make a profit, we're not going to be around very long. Alfred said, provide services first, make money second. Well, that's fine, but if we don't make a profit, we won't be around very long. So you can see that, such as April stated and Alon stated, we've got to make a profit. Now we want to do it ethically and legally and develop clients and retain clients, but we have to make a profit. Okay, so we're going to use the restaurant as the model, the example for the business model discussion. And I think this will be helpful. So stick with me, even if you have no interest in restaurants. So in creating a model for a restaurant, this may be a little bit bigger, defining the model requires the following fundamental concepts: the industry, the sector, and the subsector. Restaurants fall in the hospitality industry. The sector is food and beverage, because there are other businesses in the hospitality industry, hotels and motels, right? They fall under hospitality, but they do something very different. The subsector is really what we got to drill down to. And so the subsectors of restaurants can include fast food, quick serve, casual dining, or fine dining. And I guess even now you could argue delivery, because that's becoming popular, but we'll just stick with the text here. So each is a variant of the model. So we couldn't say, oh, we just want to go form a restaurant. We couldn't build a business model with just that generic statement. We've got to dig deeper. What type of restaurant are we going to be? The examples shown here are fast food, quick serve, casual, fine dining. And each of them operate differently, don't they? Fast food tends to have lower margins, but higher volume. Quick serve tends to have low payroll because they don't have servers. Casual dining tends to have good margins and volume, as they typically have upsale, like alcohol, and they turn tables quickly in about an hour. And then fine dining has much higher cost, right? They're going to spend, if you're going into a fine dining restaurant, let's say you're taking your wife, or if you're a woman, your significant other, your husband or whomever, to a nice dinner. My wife and I are going to dinner tonight. And so, you're going to figure to pay about $50 per person if you go to a decent restaurant, because you're getting better staff, you're getting better food quality, but that can also be higher margins. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about the first step. Well, I guess the second step. The first step is to create the client relationship. But the first step in launching a business is we got to figure out, what is this business model that we want to operate? The example we're using is restaurants, and realizing we can't just say we want a restaurant. We have to figure out what subsector we're going to be in, because it's going to affect how we set up the business, how much money we need, and everything. It's going to affect everything. So next paragraph. The next thing to tackle is whether to purchase an existing restaurant, buy a franchise, or start a restaurant from scratch. With the franchise model, the owner pays into a fund for royalties and marketing, with the theory that sales will start quickly. In contrast, a standalone restaurant may focus its marketing locally and not have the cost of a franchise. I've worked with many restaurants, both with the SBA and afterwards. Franchises are the easiest to get funding. And I'm going on a tangent here, but to share an experience, because the SBA will readily fund franchises, and they have a list of approved SBA franchises. So I don't want to say it's automatic, but it's pretty simple for us to get a loan package together for just about any SBA approved franchise, including restaurants. Why is that? Well, because the lender understands that the model has been vetted, there's proper support, there's less risk of failure. Does that mean that no franchises fail? Of course not. That franchises can fail. But the point that we're getting to is we needed to start with deciding, of course, what industry we're in. We decided restaurant and drilled down to whatever subsector. Now the question is, are we going to purchase an existing restaurant? Are we going to buy into a franchise, or start from scratch? Those are the three main options of this point in the discussion. Now, this is probably true not only for restaurants, but even if we wanted to start an automobile repair service, or just about anything else, these are the primary options of how to get started. Buy an existing business, buy into a franchise, or start from scratch. So that is important for us to figure out, because our our capital raise needs and the whole business model will vary based upon what we're jumping into. With the franchise model, the owner pays into a fund for royalties and marketing with the theory that sales will start quickly. A standalone restaurant may focus, oh, we already said that, sorry. Restaurants tend to differentiate themselves by focusing on quality food or great service or exceptional prices. So I'm going to pause there. So I have facilitated numerous business plan competitions, not like Shark Tank, nothing that glamorous, but business plan competitions. And what you and I know, a lot of entrepreneurs will overlook. You usually can't have all of these. So in a restaurant, could you have great quality food where it's grade A steak, grade A shrimp, it's fresh salads, it's just excellent food. Also, great service. We've got really committed, thorough wait staff. You know what I like, and you probably like, when you go to a restaurant and you get the bread before the meal and you get some crumbs on the tablecloth, they come over and they sweep it off. They have that little broom, they sweep the crumbs off your table. Well, that's pretty kick-ass, right? When you go to Taco Bell, there's no one coming over to swipe the crumbs off of your table from your bean burrito. And then pricing. So typically, if quality is high, price will have to go high. Otherwise, we're probably going to go broke. We won't make a profit, because how are we going to buy great quality food, hire and support the best staff, and then have really cheap prices? And so we have to think through this. We have to figure out what our business model is, regardless if it's a restaurant or otherwise. And that's what it's pointing out in the second sentence. It's rare to find all three. So the model should define the balance between the three. That's my point I was making about business model competitions. I see a lot of naive entrepreneurs. They want to do all. I want to have low prices, and I want to have the lowest prices, and I want to have the highest quality. Well, unless you have some exceptional way to do that your competition hasn't figured out yet, which is possible, but it's rare, then you're probably going to fail. Let's use real estate as an example. If you read yesterday's Wall Street Journal, meaning May 18th, 2022 Wall Street Journal, they highlighted the top real estate broker last year in 2021 in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia is a hot market. Guess what? That real estate broker doesn't live in Atlanta, Georgia. That real estate broker does not even live in the state of Georgia. He lives in Florida. He has a unique competitive advantage. So you can read the article if you want, but the bottom line is we need to decide where we're going to be on this continuum of quality and cost, because it's probably it's definitely unusual, bordering on impossible, to have the best quality and the lowest price. It says, additionally, restaurants tend to require a theme of some kind with a niche that draws traffic and builds customer loyalty, because repeat business is the main thrust of a restaurant's success. And that's similar to what Winston was talking about, getting and keeping customers. Another issue for restaurants is capacity. Now, I want you to pay attention to this paragraph, because this is very important. So another issue for restaurants is capacity. Determining the number of tables and chairs drives the capacity issue by requiring the owner to consider how fast the tables can turn and how many hours. This drives the size of staff, pricing strategy, quality of service, and quality of food. So that's a lesson that almost all businesses will have to have, because we're going to put together projections of our growth. Well, we may have some capacity constraints of how many clients we can handle at a time, or logistical constraints, how many spots are in the parking lot, and so forth. So it's immature, it's naive to think, oh, I'll just grow exponentially and everything will just be linear. You're almost always going to run up against capacity constraints with growth, and that can cause growing pains. Last week was an example. We launched the funding proposal. Well, we've relaunched, I guess, the funding proposal.online, and you all went crazy with it. Well, we didn't have the capacity, we do now, but we didn't have the capacity last week to keep up with it. So instead of turning those proposals around in 24 hours, which we're back on track now, or close to it at least, we were lagging. And so it's not unusual to have capacity constraints. And so we need to build that into our plan as well as into our funding needs. While a restaurant may be a simple way of explaining model selection, the process of creating a model is similar for developing any business. This includes defining the industry, the sector, the subsector, what our capacity is, what our marketing is going to be, our niche, our purchasing, and then are we going to purchase a business or start a new business, and overall strategy. Okay, so if you have any comments or questions, feel free to post those. While formulating the business model is a good idea to begin the organizational process, create a 5-section notebook or create an electronic file on your iPad or similar device, which you keep with you. A business owner never knows when an idea will come to mind. Keep napkins handy too, since we all know how many companies start on a napkin in a coffee shop. 5 main sections on this little notebook. Your product or service. We have to define what it is we're going to offer. And I can tell you, I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, and they'll often come to the table with a broad concept, but not enough refinement to really go implement. So the restaurant's a fine example, but we could use other examples. Let's say it's real estate. Okay, are we going to buy commercial real estate, or are we going to buy commercial or residential real estate? Is it going to be single family or multifamily? We've got to figure out what it is that we offer. If it's a restaurant, and I can tell you, when I worked for the SBA, it was fascinating. I have a lot of people come to me and say, I need funding for a restaurant. Great, we can get you the funding. What is it you're going to offer at your restaurant? And what are your prices going to be? It takes a lot of thought to vet through that. That's why if you're a white label partner, you shouldn't just consider your revenue stream from the client as a percentage of the capital raise to get them funding, which you certainly can and will, and you set your own performance fee. But I'm telling you, if you have an interest in also doing the coaching, which we can train you and support you on, there's a lot more that goes into the business than just getting the capital, and you can increase your income exponentially by helping people in a broader fashion. But of the 5 sections, product, service, how we're going to market, the financial models, management and operations, and then any additional notes. If the plan is to purchase an existing business, the process is slightly different. Well, I will tell you, if you and I are working with a client that's going to buy an existing business, the process is significantly different, because now we're going to be able to get historical information. I was helping a Korean gentleman buy a donut shop. And I tell you what, donut shops might surprise you how profitable they are. But it was just a little roadside, well, I shouldn't say little, but a roadside donut shop. And so with that, the priority wasn't, well, let's figure out all of this from scratch. It was instead, let's gather from the seller their bank statements, their tax returns, their financial reports. Because if we're buying a business, we need to have access to that historical information, whereby if we're starting something new, we have to create it from scratch. And then the third scenario we talked about earlier, if we're buying a franchise, we should be able to get a lot of support from the franchisor. During the process of investigating a business being considered for purchase, contact a business plan writer, business broker, accountant, or business attorney. Obviously, that's a lot of what our white label partners do. Let's see, then we get into the point. Many businesses don't reveal the reasons for selling. And the topic here is we need to understand why they're selling, because you don't want to get hit with a landmine. And it may be that they're older, they're looking to simplify, but it's just like used cars. A lot of times people will decide to sell their used car because they know there's an issue with it that the buyer might not know. With a business, when you're buying a business from someone, the point in the article here is we need to understand why they're selling it so we can plan appropriately. We spend a little more time on the first lesson. So when we get back together tomorrow, we're going to go through strategic planning, but let's kind of wrap this up and then debrief, answer any questions. So what we're talking about here are the 125 steps to properly launch a business. A lot of detail that is not a mandatory checklist, but it's good information to know. For those of you that are white label partners, I strongly encourage you to consider understanding this. Let's see, let's get that pulled back up. Back here, there we go. So if you want to become a white label partner, you can do it on 4weekfunding.com. If you're not a white label partner and you don't want to become one, this is just good to know information. But if you are a white label partner, like many of you on the webinar today, then this gives you hopefully a deeper understanding of how you can be coaching the client through. We provide you at no cost for the client the Live Plan. Live Plan is the cloud-based software that we use to build the business plan and financial projections. And so that's where this information will go into. What we're talking today is not conflicting with Live Plan, but it's just giving you greater insight into some of the conversation that you may want to have with the client as you're moving them through this. If you want to make it real simple and just give them the Live Plan access and say, hey, you go do it, you can take more of a hands-off approach. But a number of you really have a passion for helping people. And again, you can monetize it. So what questions, comments, concerns does anyone have about what we're talking about? Which of course, as I scroll up, we're talking about the 125-step checklist for launching a business. We know that we need to start by getting the client engaged. If you're a referral partner, they get engaged here frequently. If you're a white label partner, then they're coming under agreement with you. And then we implement. When we're implementing, we start week 1, module 1 of building the business plan out. Before we just start typing away on Live Plan and start putting content in, we need to formulate the business model. And that's what we talked about today. So anxious for feedback. So Alfred, April, DeBerry, Ben, Bernard, Charles, Joseph, Lon, Pauline, Sam, Wayne, Winston, others. We've got about 113 of you this morning. What questions, comments, feedback do any of you have as we're starting this journey together to go through a detailed discussion of the 125 steps to launch a business? And especially for those of you that are white label partners, this should help you be better prepared to have these conversations with the clients. And here it's setting them up for success using Live Plan. Anyone have questions, comments, concerns? All right, so Timothy's asking about cost. So of course, there's no cost to become a white label partner. You just go to 4weekfunding.com and fill this out and we'll get you set up. From a client's perspective, we don't like the client to have any advance fees, no upfront cost. And so with that being said, if you're a referral partner, you refer here and they don't pay anything up front. If you're a white label partner, which is really what this training is most oriented to, and we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of white label partners, not quite 1,000 yet, but a lot. If you're a white label partner, then you're getting them under your own agreement, your own terms and conditions. And then you submit them in on the white label page. I can show you where to do that if you'd like, just to make sure you know. So go to iimfl.org, go to the white label page, scroll down, and this will populate the screen in a second. There's a little bit of lag. I get too many tabs open, but we'll give it a second. And right underneath the training videos, this is, once you're a white label partner, here's where you submit the client. So you don't send the clients to this. This is where you submit the clients. That's where we're implementing them. Once this comes into us, then we're going to be sending you, not them, but we're going to be sending you confirmation of that and their Live Plan access. And so then if you're a white label partner, then you'll be doing that mentoring, that coaching with them. That's where this hits real close to home, right? Because you're going to start with module 1. And if you wonder what the modules are, of course, they're listed here on the same page. Where we start with business planning, and then we talk about business credit, financial management, banking and money, but most relevant, module 1. And so we provide you at no cost the Live Plan access. So then you, as the white label partner, would begin mentoring with them. And this type of background is essential, especially if they're a new startup. What you do know that you'll need to figure out quickly from the client is which of those three categories do they fit in? Are they going to start a business from scratch? Are they going to buy into a franchise? Or are they going to acquire an existing business? So those are three very different options. We still need to have a business plan. We need to have a business model and a business plan for funding. But if we're going to buy an existing business, we're going to be able to get a lot of the information from how the business has operated before. If we're going to buy a franchise, we can typically get a lot of the information from the franchisor. And if we're starting from scratch, which is frankly the majority of what we do, then we'll need to create it. And this is probably the most relevant for your clients that are starting from scratch, because a franchise, they don't have the choice of defining the model. The franchise already has a model built. If you're buying an existing business, unless you're making radical changes, the business model is already defined. But most of our clients will be starting a business from scratch. So this discussion is remarkably relevant. Okay, any other questions that anyone has about lesson one? We only have 124 more steps to go, but this will be a fun journey that we'll cover each morning in our daily Zooms. Any questions, comments, concerns before we end today? All right, well, we'll be back tomorrow morning, and we will focus tomorrow on determining the strategic plan. And there's a good chance tomorrow we'll be able to cover that, as well as getting further along on maybe steps 3 and 4. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.